My pleasure.
So you're going for the closed session. Let me know what you can see, what you cannot see, because I cannot see anything now. I'm completely lost here.
We can see the screen. Yeah.
No, this is the wrong vision.
We can
swap.
see
exactly.
Okay, good.
Okay, so Rafaela, Ingrid, and Thomas, you cannot screw with us, all right? You've got to tell me what I'm supposed to do, okay? It's your responsibility, okay? All right? There is a lot of things at stake at the moment. Okay, let's go for this is the closing session. Then there is the before going to the closing session, I want to remind what Elias had told me. So all this material, the recordings, the slides, the chats will be available on Clouda. All right. If people want to continue the discussions, go to Clouda, and I believe we'll be there for the next 2 weeks, as far as Elias tells me. Elias, correct?
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you. All right. So I would like to remind again, everyone, thanks to everyone already which already filled the survey, the steering committee SEAMS survey, but it's got still time. All right. We've got still time after the closing session to go there. And because we need this information, all right, we need to know what you like, what could be improved, what you expect, all right, and that's very important, all right, considering the uncertainty that you live on, all right. So Bradley is desperately looking for some insights from the community, all right, in order to organize SEAMS 2022 in the several forms. Okay. Now, my next part. Now, this is how the this closed session. So the next bit will be the awards. All right. You've got 3 awards. You've got afterwards. I close SEAMS 2021. I pass the word to our dear leader Danny. All right, about the steering committee, and afterwards Bradley. All right, takes over promoting SEAMS 2022. All right. On this note, I leave to my colleague Thomas, all right, to talk about the award of best artifact.
Thank you, Rogerio. So yeah, as a PC chair of the artifacts track, it's now a pleasure for me to announce the best artifact of SEAMS 2021. And I will first briefly sketch the selection process. So based on the overall reviews, I selected a short list of candidate artifacts, and those were essentially all artifacts that received overall positive reviews. So here, thanks again for the whole PC, because again, they contributed to this decision as well. And then I formed a selection committee of that consists of a subset of the PC. And members of this committee have no conflict of interest with any candidate artifacts and weren't reviewers of such an artifact. So there's no bias. And here the choice was then Ivana and Sona. So thank you for doing additional work here in this selection committee and helping with the decision to determine the best artifact among the candidates on the short list. And then we had a discussion to converge, but this discussion was really very, very short because there was really one clear winner. And so now I'm happy to announce the winner. And next slide,
Can I press the button?
Yeah, you can. So the best artifact this year goes to Platooning Legos, an open physical exemplar for engineering self-adaptive cyber-physical systems of systems by Yongjun Jin, Lingyun Liu, Sangwon Yuan, and Do Wan Bei. Congratulations, Yongjun.
So any one of the authors there, can you show yourselves, please?
Yeah, I see Yongjun is here.
So all right, congratulations. All right.
Thank you very much.
So,
all right, brilliant.
Yeah, so it's really appreciated that it's a physical artifact. So that was also visible in the discussion, the session we had. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to press the button again. it doesn't work. I was afraid of that.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's me now, Rogerio. So
Are
yeah, the awards for the main track, we had to give best paper and best student paper. As I said during the opening, so a lot of time ago, we decided for a selection process which is similar to the ones that Thomas described now. So we defined a short list of paper, and with the following criteria. The paper should have no rejection and have at least one nomination for best paper. Then we had also a paper that satisfied only one of the two criteria, and for them we looked in detail in a case-by-case basis, considering the reviewers, and then at the end Ingrid and I formed a short list of 5 papers, and we selected a committee with no conflict of interest, and it was not so easy, but they read the papers again, checked everything, they discussed to converge to a solution, proposed as a ranking, and then we discussed it again. Next slide, please, Rogerio. And we would like to thank you very much, our committee for the selection of best paper, Patrizia, Zaya, and Rami, because they did a very good work, and we asked additional work after the standard review process. And so for the awards, I give the floor to Ingrid.
Ingrid?
My internet is just a bit unstable now, just to give some suspense. Can you hear me well?
Brilliant, brilliant.
Okay,
Your silence nearly killed us.
Okay, so you can go ahead, Rogerio. So the best student paper goes to Yu, Javier, David, Bradley, and Z. For the paper, Hey, Preparing Humans to Do Tasks in Self-Adaptive System.
Are the authors there? Can they show themselves, please?
Hello there.
Okay, brilliant. Congratulations.
Thanks.
All right, brilliant.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And the best paper award goes to...
Are you sure?
Yeah. Michael Langford and Betty Cheng for the paper Know What You Know, Predicting Behavior for Learning-Enabled Systems When Facing Uncertainty. So congratulations. Are any of them?
Are you guys there? Is there Betty?
Here. Yes.
Michael, congratulations, both of you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you to the committee too.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Now I think it's my part. All right, do the thanks. First, I would like to thank the ICSI 2021 organizing committee. In particular, Natalia. All right, Natalia was a brilliant journal chair. She embraced completely ICSI, and she was all over the place, and she was very always prompt to our messages, and she was a great journal chair. All right, under the difficulties that ICSI has faced, she was a great journal chair. All right, so I would like also to thank Jeff and Gregorio, which are co-located events co-chairs. They were brilliant. All right, so they were responsive. There was no time that I didn't have a message that in less than 24 hours I had an answer. All right, so the guys were impeccable. Whenever they didn't know, they said, Rogerio, one second there, and they'll provide an answer. It was brilliant. So I want also to thank Ed Nutting. Nobody knows perhaps about Ed, but he's the, he creates Research R, Create Cloud R. And I'm pretty sure that Elias also is very thankful to him, all right, because of his prompt, all right. And personally, I think he avoided me to commit murdering online. So for this particular fact, all right, I need to include his name there. All right. So he was always prompt to us. All right. So the next step, I would like to thank the authors, the reviewers, session chairs, attendees, all right, for the wonderful SEAMS. Essentially, it's you make SEAMS to be what SEAMS is. All right. So how it run, the questions made, the thoroughness in the selection of the papers, in the questions, the friendship, the motivation, everything makes sense. And I'm very pleased to be part of this community. Now, last but not least, all right, I have got to thank Elias. All right, Elias, I think, thank you very much, Elias. We were wonderful. And actually, if there was no glitches in this live, all right, SEAMS, it was because of you, all right? And thanks a lot, all right, because it was impeccable. And I hope everyone gives a round of applause, because it was Elias who make sure, and his team actually, that make sure that the things will go as everyone expected. And I believe that is the case. All right. Thank you, Elias. All right.
Thank you.
All right. So my last thanks is to my committee, organization committee. They were wonderful. I couldn't find a better committee to work with. They were motivated. They work hard. They were always there. All right. It's very difficult for me to identify anyone in particular. All right. So, and I believe that we might have done our job well. All right. So far on the responses I've got from the survey is that they're positive. They're very positive. And that's giving me a great pleasure. All right. And so some of you I never met personally. All right. And but it's a great pleasure to work with a team like you, because you come up with something, all right, and you come something that in general, all right, people liked what we prepared. And on this note, all right, I would like to pass my turn to Danny, which is the chair of the steering committee of SEAMS, and now he has got to say something to us. So to everyone, from my part, and I think on the behalf of the organization committee, thanks very much, and I hope to see you in Pittsburgh. All right, and beyond this, I'll stop my share.
Thank you, Rogerio.
Thank you.
Hello. I will briefly report you about the steering committee meeting that we had last week, Friday. So these were the people that attended the steering committee. These are the people that we had for the last year at the steering committee. And as you can see, Hausi, who is one of the founders of SEAMS, will leave us after this SEAMS this year. The same applies for Shioban and for Kenji, who rotate off of the committee. And we welcome, in fact, we welcome again Bradley, who was already PC chair in 2015, and it will be the general chair next year. And we welcome also the two program committee chairs, Javier and Martina. So we had a lot of discussion. Actually, we had more topics for discussion as the time we allocated for the committees. Some discussions are still ongoing now. I will report here a few things more in detail, but let me first say we discussed one issue was the core ranking. Rogerio, thank you for that. He applied for SEAMS to become ranked on the core ranking, which is for many people around the globe important. And I think we have a very competitive proposal, but the decision has not been made yet. But once we have a decision, the community will be informed about that. We established last year a connection with our sister conference, Axos, and actually we have a representative in each other's steering committee so that we can exchange the information that needs to be exchanged and be updated about each other's activity, which is a good thing, I think, for our community, because that way we can be maximum constructive with each other. We have an important discussion about the types of papers. Some of these words have already been mentioned here during the symposium. And this is an issue that must still be further discussed. We will also take the input from the survey that Rogerio referred to, where we also collect some information about that. So there is an unbalance somehow, we believe, or some people believe, this must be further discussed between short and long papers. But you will hear more about that later. And then there are a few topics I would like to go a little bit more in depth. First, the policy about how general chairs and PC chairs are selected. We would like to be a bit more open about it so that everybody in the community knows how these processes work. We will say who is selected for general chair in 2023. And then we have discussed also some issues concerning the review process of SEAMS, and I will conclude with saying some words about the SEAMS charter. So first, the policy for selecting chairs. It goes as follows. Steering committee members, they can propose people, their names to become general chair. And so the names are collected. These should be people that are recognized within the broader community, I have to say, but they should be connected to our community. So it cannot be someone completely disconnected from SEAMS. It is important for a general chair that he is aware about what our community is about and how everything works. And then based on that, the steering committee then discuss and select, put forward someone. And then the steering committee chair will get in touch with that person. And if he accepts, he is then named the next general chair. And then the general chair can propose PC chairs. So we leave the responsibility for selecting PC chairs with the general chair, because he has to compose a team. And as Rogerio was saying, it's crucial that you can work with those people who like to work. Now, it cannot be out of the blue sky, people and their names. Of course, some kind of similar rules apply here. So we give the general chair a list with names that are continuously maintained within the steering committee. And then he has to take into account a number of issues, that meaning balancing senior and junior. Usually, if we have two PC chairs, we want to balance that. He has to take into account diversity and geography, these kind of things. And that applies first to the PC chairs, the organizing committee then, and later on to the whole PC as well. So the steering committee has to confirm the PC chair. So they need to, the general chair needs an okay for that. And then at the end, the general chair and the PC chairs, they put together the whole organizing committee, and that's obviously their own responsibility then. I hope that this shines a bit more light on how this works. Then the general chair for next SEAMS, which is not the next SEAM, but the SEAMS after the next SEAMS, we are always 1 year ahead so that people can start preparing on time. That will be Sharam Dustar from the Technical University in Vienna. He is an active member in our community, and he is a great name. So we are happy that he has accepted to take up this responsibility. Sharam is not for the moment attending here this meeting, because he informed me that he was busy the whole afternoon with doctoral. One of his PhD students was actually graduating this afternoon, so it was really impossible for him not to be at that place. Okay, then there have been raised a number of issues regarding the review process. And these issues were discussed also at the steering committee, and I think it's important that we take them seriously. So one of the issues was that reviewers sometimes still are not using guidelines that are required for different types of papers. So if you have a short paper or you have a long paper, obviously you should use the proper instructions to review those papers differently, because they're not the same. So from now on, we will be more strict and clear about what guidelines should be used to review the different types of papers. Another issue that was raised during these SEAMS, and in fact already previously, was that reviewers sometimes some kind of use, between brackets, the opportunity to use a review and say, okay, guys, you need to the authors, you need to refer to this and that paper. and half or more of these papers are then their own papers, which is considered something we should try to avoid. Of course, it can be that the paper that I have to review a paper and I find that command this paper must be cited my work because it's really missing here as a basis for what is presented. That opportunity is still there, but we have installed a mechanism to deal with that, and the PC members will be informed about that. And finally, luckily not many, but a few people have not really done their job as it should be. They are called here the problematic reviewers. So we will also take measures to deal with these people, that we are not recurringly facing these kind of problems with reviewers that are not submitted or not according to the standards that we expect. So then there will be a big initiative this year that we started now. We will write what is called a charter for our community, in fact for SEAMS then. And this charter has the following. We have defined an initial template. So we will define a mission, the scope of what we want with SEAMS, and the policy regarding diversity. In this charter, we will explain the principles, the mechanisms that we use for the composition of the steering committee. How is the steering committee composed, and what mechanisms do we use to refresh people? Now, with the more and more moving people out, founders out of the steering committee, there was raised an issue that we have to be careful that there is sufficient continuity over time. So we will also include a mechanism to ensure that. Further, we will define duties and the policies regarding the steering committee chair and the members of the steering committee. And a similar aspect will apply for general chair and PC chair. So we'll formalize the procedure and describe the duties and policies. And finally, we will also include something about awards. Now, this charter is not meant to be a dead document. It's meant to be something that the community can be aware of, that they know how the community works, and it can, of course, be updated based on approved changes by the steering committee. And the plan is to approve the charter by next SEAMS. So there has been now for next year a new steering committee. So the people that rotate off are after this session here no longer a member of the steering committee. And we welcome Sharam as the new member of the steering committee as general chair, and his program committee chairs 1 or 2 will be added to the steering committee as well. So I would also, on behalf of the steering committee, like to conclude here with a big thank you for the organizers of this year's SEAMS. It was again a wonderful SEAMS. Really, this is from the bottom of my heart, guys. You did a wonderful job, really. Rogerio, Rafaela, Ingrid, Elias, you get a special attention here. But of course, all the other members of this organizing committee that did their job, thank you really very much for this wonderful work. And that concludes my overview. Thank you very much.
And that brings us to SEAMS 2022. I'd like to echo what Danny just said and what's been going on in the chat with congratulations to Rogerio, Rafaela, and Ingrid for setting such a high bar for SEAMS 2022. And SEAMS 2022 is going to be in Pittsburgh, which I'm delighted to welcome you to my hometown for the last 20 years. Pittsburgh is an interesting place, and hopefully we can all come there in this year, next year. So the dates for SEAMS have not quite been finalized. It's likely to be the 23rd and the 24th of May. But there's still some uncertainty in that, but we know how to live with uncertainty in this community. So we will adapt if this adapts as well. Our organizing committee is, I'm the general chair, Javier and Martina are the program chairs. And we're really lucky in this community, I think, to have a very deep pool of talent that we can draw from to put together a wonderful organizing committee. And I have to mention again, Ilias, because everybody is mentioning Ilias. he's obviously a glutton for punishment. He's agreed this year again to take over the role of virtualization chair for the virtual part of SEAMS 2022 that we'll talk about a little later. And with that, I want to hand it over to Javier, one of the program chairs, to talk about the actual program.
Thanks, Bradley. Hi, everyone. So the theme for next year's SEAMS will be SEAMS in industry. So we're getting now to a point where industry is making extensive use of self-management in many application domains, in which various types of autonomous and adaptive systems are being developed. So we believe that this is a good opportunity for our community to start looking into important questions, such as current problems in adaptation that industries are facing these days. In what ways has SEAMS research made an impact on industrial practice? Or what techniques currently used by industry can be incorporated into software engineering good practice? So we would like to encourage you to work with your industrial partners to develop research in all around these ideas. So next slide, please. So if we take a look at the tracks that next year's program will incorporate, we will of course have the core technical track, including both long and short papers. And as part of the SEAMS in industry theme, we will have a new industry track that will focus on real world practices and experience. We will also have a doctoral track that will provide an opportunity for doctoral students to discuss their research with other more senior members of the SEAMS community. And in the tradition of recent years, we will have a track to submit artifacts that can be used by others for experimentation, comparison, and evaluation. So for the industry track, the main goal is to create some cross-fertilization between academia and industry by having practitioners share their experience and perspectives on current challenges and opportunities. The track will foster this cross-fertilization by accepting long papers submitted by groups of practitioners in collaboration with SEAMS researchers, as well as short papers from practitioners describing their experience and views. This track will have its own program committee composed by a mix of academics and practitioners, and perhaps will incorporate a community debate centered on this topic. So we encourage you all to start working on this now to submit your contributions for next year. So after a couple of years of not meeting in person, there are probably many new PhD students who haven't been able to receive feedback from other members of the community in an informal setting. So the objective of the doctoral symposium will be to provide such an opportunity for doctoral students to discuss their research with senior members of the SEAMS community and to receive constructive feedback in a friendly environment. This track will receive papers outlining a research problem, some related work, a description of the research and evaluation plan, as well as some expected contributions. Finally, the artifact track will continue the tradition of producing artifacts and exemplars to help with our research. The body of artifacts in our community keeps on growing, so that's great. But despite that, we have observed that the use of these artifacts is still lagging. So we would like to encourage you to also consider using these artifacts in your papers. You can find a description of the existing set of artifacts in the URL that you can see in the slide. So please visit that website if you have a chance to do that and think about whether any of the artifacts is a good match for the kind of research that you have in mind. Well, as you can see, we are aiming at building an ambitious and very exciting program for next year, but of course we need your help to populate it with content. So we count on you to start thinking about your SEAMS ideas for next year and to spread the word among colleagues. We're really sure that you will make excellent contributions, so thank you in advance for that.
Thank you, Javier. I must also mention that the artifacts from this year will be added to that website, so that'll increase from 23 to a higher number. And so that's a real resource that the community has to do flyer research and do comparisons. I wanted to mention briefly, ICSE 2022 is planning to be a hybrid situation. And so we're following that with SEAMS. We understand that the recovery from COVID is probably going to be uneven across the world, and so it may be possible that people just can't come to Pittsburgh. And so we're working with Ilias to have a hybrid SEAMS where there's in-person participation and also remote participation. And as you can imagine, that's quite a challenging task, and we're really hoping to tackle that head on to get. I think there's really been some great benefits by having SEAMS remotely that we should try and take into the live setting as well, and also have hybrid. I want to talk a little bit about Pittsburgh. As I said, it's been my hometown for the last 20 years. So Pittsburgh is actually an always adapting city. It sort of started off as the Wild West in America. It was the Iroquois Nation has been in the area for 16,000 years or so. And and at the time around the time of George Washington, in the Revolutionary War here, it was considered to be the Wild West of America. You'll see lots of signs all over the place. I noticed when I moved here saying George Washington slept here. He spent a lot of time in his early days before he was president of the United States, surveying and so on. It was also the sort of center of the French Indian War and this thing called the Whiskey Rebellion, where farmers in the area were using whiskey as currency because it was hard to get US dollars. And the federal government was not happy with that. So they sent armed forces to force people to use US dollars rather than whiskey. But maybe this is a currency that we can use here in SEAMS for for getting papers accepted, maybe. After it was the Wild West, it moved it into being a big steel center for steel and rail. It has a big working class background, a big immigration background. There's lots of different kinds of neighborhoods that were founded by lots of different nationalities. So there's lots of different kinds of cultures and cuisines centered in Pittsburgh. It's also the birthplace of the union movements and the labor movements. Center for Jazz. You may have heard of some people, Andrew Carnegie, Andrew Mellon, who were sort of big opponents or participants in the steel industry and the financial industry. So Pittsburgh went through quite a rich legacy or rich period in the late 1800s and early 1900s because of this. And you can see evidence of that in architecture and cultural venues and things like that. These days, because the steel industry is not so big in the United States, it's transitioned, adapted itself to be a center for education, tech, and healthcare. We have 29 colleges and universities in the area, in the city. There's dozens of hospitals. The polio vaccine actually came out of Pittsburgh, research that was done in Pittsburgh. We have a number of autonomous driving companies. The mayor of Pittsburgh really tried to drive Pittsburgh as being a home to this kind of technology. And there are many other tech companies as well. Google, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, among them have centers in here in Pittsburgh. And when you come to Pittsburgh, what would await you? Well, a lot of the old industrial places or old industrial sites have been sort of greenified, cleaned up. And so there's lots of parks and walking and biking trails for your enjoyment. There's lots of vibrant food, bars and breweries for you to entertain yourselves. There's lots of arts and culture, Andy Warhol, August Wilson, jazz, and lots of museums as well to spend your time. And there's also a lot of fascinating architecture here because of Pittsburgh's rich history. And of course, our own architectural history as well with David and Mary here. So getting to Pittsburgh is relatively easy. There's lots of connections from the United States, and there's lots of direct flights from places in the United States. And so hopefully you'll be able to find great flights into Pittsburgh from wherever you come. And so with that, I'll close and invite you all to come to Pittsburgh in 2022. I think we have a vibrant and excellent program planned with lots of good activities. And so come. And with that, that's the end. Should I hand it back to you, Rogerio, or are you done? I'm done. Okay.
My job is finished. My job is your job now. I'm sorry, Bradley. You've got to finish the
me
stuff.
now. Okay.
The only person responsible to switch the button is Elias. All right.